welcome. I'm Sebastiaan. I've made a makeshift table out of this chair, so I can actually use my computer. Also known as Kaltov. I work at Mindbus. Awesome company. We have jobs, so please apply. Do some freelance work in the evenings, weekends. Been working with Umbraco for 3 years now, and loving it still, even 5. I thought, well, since 5 is totally awesome already, let's take it to the next step. And that's what this presentation will be about. What else can I tell you about myself? These are my parents. Not really. Alright, so I was at the Dev Days in let's turn this off. In The Hague, in March, and saw the announcement of MVC4, and was really excited about it, and was trying to see how I could upgrade the Umbraco to MVC4 to take advantage of all the cool new features. And lo and behold, I actually made it work sort of last week. So that's what I'm going to show you right now. So I'm actually going to be really boring and take a completely blank Umbraco 5.1 RC1 version and upgrade it on the fly. First, delete the folder that's currently in. Everything. Oh, that was that one. Alright. So, just download it, pretty blank. I don't know what the zip file called the whole fucking lot is, but so this is RC1, and the first thing I'll be doing is finding all of the web.config files, because they need to be upgraded. All of the references to MVC4 will be replaced with MVC3 will be replaced with MVC4. Let's close these things. So, Control H. A few things. I need system web MVC number 3 to be upgraded to 4. Displays everywhere. I need system web pages.razor version 1.2.2. So there's also a new version of Razor in MVC4, which I'll talk about later because it's got some really nice new features as well. The web helpers they tie into Razor as well. And they go from 1 to 2 as well. Everything. And the last one is web pages, which I can't remember what it does, but it must be good. It goes from 1 to 2. Alright, that's everything replaced. So that's all the web configs in the Umbraco solution. There's also let's see, some more configs that have system web.mvc in them. No, there isn't. Yay. Let me check my blog post about it because I thought there was. Step 1 done. Okay, web config and okay. I'll need to change some other things as well, which is the references to web pages, which ties into Razor somehow, and that's in the main web config. So let's see, that's the root one. Yep. And just add those two keys. This is from the upgrade instructions on the MVC site. And also change this. The assembly bindings. This will tell everything that's trying to call MVC3 to use MVC4 instead. So just add them. And there's also one already that says if it's 1 or 2, if it's MVC1 or 2, use 3. So I'm not forcing everything to 4. And as said, I need an extra one for the Razor upgrade, which wasn't in the upgrade instructions by Microsoft. So I'll have that one as well. There. Anything else? Oh, yeah. So now I can start it, and it will sort of work until it crashes. So let's see. Open this side with the matrix. And start it. And we will get the nice install screen. Oh, not even anymore. That's interesting. Ooh. Unexpected error. Okay. Well, I'll try to do the other thing that I need to do anyway, and see if that helps. Which is back to my blog. So there's something called Microsoft.web.mvc, which is something that Microsoft is developing internally, or actually also externally. It's called, I think they call it the MVC Futures. So this is code that might someday make it into the regular MVC framework. And that's exactly what happened right now. So Umbraco uses it to do something like HTML.id4 and HTML.name4, stuff like that. And that used to be in the Microsoft Web MVC namespace, and it's now been merged back into the MVC framework. So it's now, when you try to use it, it will say, this is ambiguous. I've got ID4 in this DLL and in this DLL. Which should I choose? So I actually, this was really cool. I was like, okay, let's go to, at least I find it cool. I just heard from Niels that I don't have a live, so fine, whatever. I actually downloaded the complete MVC source code. Microsoft released that as true open source recently, and it's also contains things like Razor and this Futures project and some other stuff. So I actually downloaded the whole thing and compiled it, which was, that was only one error. I needed to get some NuGet packages first, but it was completely documented and it worked straight out of the box, so it's a really good experience. So just compiled it, I got the new DLL, and I think I've got it here. I'll just drop that into my upgraded solution. So I just need the DLL. Let's see if that helps my error. I'm afraid it won't, but fingers crossed. Yep. And maybe I can go to install. Wow, I haven't seen this error before. This is the problem when you're doing extreme things and going for the bleeding edge. Sometimes it won't work as expected. So, luckily, I have already done another solution, which is the, maybe you're familiar with it already. It's actually the event site for today. And I upgraded that one, and it did work at that time, and then I upgraded that one to 5.1 RC. So you'll have to trust me; it will work if you do it according to the blog post. So I've done this one. It's actually here, the local version. As you can see, it's all MVC4. Let's have some properties here. MVC4. So, I think that's my first slide. There you go. I upgraded your cat. So, what is new in FVC4? A couple of cool things. This one is something I'm in two minds about. It's like, is this handy or not? There's new mobile support, so you can have mobile-specific views really easily. So currently we have this homepage that shows. It is actually, that's why I'm in two minds about it. It is actually already responsive, so it will fold the columns in, and for example here we have the about page. There's two columns next to each other. If you have a large screen, about 2,9 bus, and if you start scaling it to your mobile, no, that go under each other, it fits better. So, but what if I want a really completely different view for people who are visiting a mobile site? It's pretty hard to do if you start doing this in a responsive way. So, to make that really easy, the MVC team has provided some interesting options. So, over here, I think notice that this is the home. So this is my home view, which is what you're seeing right now. There's only one view here. But if I copy that and just change it to home.mobile, let's use HTML. I can just delete everything and say, why are you on mobile? Site still looks the same, I hope. Just doing a quick recompile, I think. There you go, still looks the same. But if we have a different user agent string, then we should see why you on mobile. Of course, you should provide a link to the site and everything. So that's a really easy way to provide a completely different view by just having an extra file in there that will do that for you. It will make most sense probably to have your layout file do most of that, so you can have your content still shared a little bit. Very interesting. I'm not sure how much you can do. It's going to be. It's a bit like fitting a cat in a ball that doesn't actually quite fit. The other really cool thing is the web API. This makes it really easy for you to just create a controller. It's actually called an API controller that will show your content in a RESTful way. So I tried to build this with the Umbraco content in it, but unfortunately this doesn't work. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of what it's supposed to do. Let's get some of these things out of the way. It's just going to show you some values, and it works completely.
Is the API controller now being replaced by the service controller?
Sorry?
Is it a different controller, the API controller?
What this really is that anything that is marked as IEnumerable can be used in your API. So there can be Umbraco content. As you maybe saw earlier, I tried to do that for the events that we have today, or the time slots that we have today. I tried to make it into a JSON or XML view. Didn't work. So anything that is an IEnumerable can be accessed through a standardized API, which is following all of the best practices. So if you do a get, then the get method gets called. If you do a get with an ID, the get with an ID method gets called. If you do a HTTP post, then the post method will get called. So all of these things that are really RESTful are supported, and you can get XML and JSON back, and you also get OData query syntax, which is an easy way to do things like top 10 paging, that sort of thing. The OData query syntax is not completely implemented, so people who are familiar with it will be missing some things. I don't know exactly why it is, but I'm sort of assuming that at some point it will make that better. Did I build this? So what it's doing right now is just getting a collection of values, showing it on the screen. Nothing very special, but very interesting nonetheless. Take a second. I'm sure I have a picture to look at. Ah, this is my sister. Api, in Dutch, Api, she's got an Api. Anyway. So you get XML in the browser because that's the default, but you can also set it to JSON. And of course, if you use jQuery to query this API, then you can say you want to accept JSON or accept XML and those sorts of things. Very interesting, and I hope that that will soon be that Umbraco will change their core a little bit so that we'll automatically be able to query on the content store, which will make it much easier to provide an API for Umbraco completely, of course. So, yep. Razor improvements. So, who's still using XSLT? Ah, no. I feel sorry for you guys. So, and those people, have you used Razor at all? Yes, yes. Okay. Well, it's getting better. There's a few improvements in there. It's not very much. One of the examples is URL resolving is a little bit better. So now I have a layout file, and what you would usually do in MVC is say, I want a URL with the content, and it lives here. And in the future, in MVC4, you just say, okay, it's somewhere related to my root, and just find it, and that works completely fine. So just it's in content, it's in styles, and I don't care what we start with here. It's just fine. You don't have to do the whole URL of content, and as you have seen, because this is the live view, it does the first one is the same one as the second one. It still works. The other thing that's supported now is some extra support for HTML attributes. So when you used to do things before, like having an active element in a list, for example, which I've done here. So before you would write something like ly, and then class equals. I want to know if let's do this here. If the CSS class, and I'm doing the condensed version now even. So if CSS class equals null, then don't show anything, and if it does have something, then I will put CSS class, something like this. Is that correct? Yeah, probably.
You should use string.empty. You shouldn't use.
Actually, I forced it to null somewhere over here. Because, and I'll show you why. Okay. Over here, I'm forcing it to null. And I'll show you in a minute why that is. So, indeed, currently it should be string.empty.
But the other one, you should use string.empty on the next one. You shouldn't ever use quote. It's bad practice.
Right. I'm sorry. I'll never use quote again. Thanks. So this is just ugly. And what happens if this starts to render? It will look like this. The class equals quote. And you don't want that really. Frontenders always start complaining to me. It's like, yeah, there's an empty class here. What do I why do we need this? So, to help you out a little bit, and this is totally sloppy code and I've forced it a little bit here, is it's always active unless I is greater than 1, and then it's null. And well, as I said, this is code that's always in place, so active. So you can see here, class equals active is only showing once. It will be removed completely if the active is null. Similarly, if this was a boolean, so if this was either true or false, for example for checkboxes, it would just remove the what is it, selected equals selected attribute. So it's a little bit cleaner markup and also easier to do than the whole if then and everything. All right, so that's really cool. I enjoy that. And there's also a new version of the. This is a shaved pussy, by the way. It's a razor. You can tell I was drunk when I was doing this. There's also a new version of Microsoft that help us. Has anybody ever used that? Because it's not been really popular. One person, good. There's a new version. Finally. I couldn't, it wasn't installed automatically, so I created a new project in Webmatrix and got the DLL from there and put it in here. So if you want to know how to do that, ask me. It's really easy, but I'm not going to show you.
Why should we use it? Microsoft will help.
I'll show you right now. So what I was actually, when I was creating this site, I was like, oh yeah, I really don't want to Google Map in there because I have to go to Google, blah blah blah. And luckily, Microsoft has provided some really cool helpers. One of them is get Google HTML. Just give it the address, some width and height, and a zoom level. Save this thing, and if I'm lucky and I have an internet connection, then I can have a map right there in one line of code. I didn't even have to include JavaScript or anything. It just works, and we can view our application. Wow, that's a dirty long video. So that's really cool. Another helper, and I wish I'd known about it when I was creating this site a week ago. Is the Twitter one, which is actually in version 1 already. Let's see. Because right now I actually found some Twitter library, Twitter JavaScript library, and implemented that, and it took an hour. And I could have done it in one line of code again. So Twitter.search, do fast. I'll just comment the other one out. Oh, that's too far. Start. Doing weird things.
Is it on Codex or is
you get it when you use Webmatrix. Afterwards, come talk to me and I'll explain. So I just do Twitter.search, or I can do Twitter. What is it, name or something. User. So just show the feed of one user, things like that. Implement search here. Set some values. I want a scroll bar. I want it to be live, not to loop. Things like that. And when I save that, so instead of the earlier, so right now it's like this, and when I reload, it's the Twitter provided widget that's running. So really easy to do, simple stuff. Also included in this is some helper for which is really cool for accessing, for allowing you to access, allow people to access your site using OAuth, Facebook authentication, Google authentication. All those things are actually really simple as well. I couldn't demo it today, but do look it up. It's really easy to do these things now, and you don't have to rely on somebody providing that service for you, asking you money for it. Just do it. It's really easy, and it works with and the reason why I couldn't show you today is because it works with some custom tables in Microsoft database. I've shown Niels this, and he's like, yeah, it would be nice to integrate with Umbraco. So hopefully someday when 5.5 is out, it will be integrated. Page Inspector. This is one of my favorite ones. I've got Inspector Gadget as well. This is really cool. So who's been using Visual Studio 11? A few people. How do you like the colors? I hated the colors. It's like everything is gray. Someone move my cheese. And actually, after working with it for a month, I'm like, this is pretty nice. And then now when I open Visual Studio 2010, I'm like, oh, this is such a garnish. So many colors. I just want to see my code, please. So one of the really cool things, this is a sidetrack. One of the really cool things about this is I know I have a put method in my events controller somewhere. Just ends up put, and then I find it. So it's really easy to find stuff now. And that's actually one of the things I realized is like I don't need the colors anymore to tell me what these files are. I just search. It's like Google, right? So when Gmail came out, it's just you don't have folders. You just search it, and this is a good implementation of that as well. So what is Page Inspector? Page Inspector is really cool. It doesn't work very well with this Umbraco solution, so I'm going to show you a default MVC application, but I'll to prove that it does work sort of with Umbraco. I'll do it now. So this is just this is IE. This is a web browser rendering your code from within Visual Studio completely. So you never have to leave Visual Studio again, but it's Internet Explorer. So I complained about that on Twitter, and somebody replied to me. He's like, "I'm the PM for this project, and we are totally going to support Chrome and Firefox and everything." It's like, okay, cool. Don't worry too much about it being IE. It'll be even cooler soon. So what can you do with it? As soon as you start hovering over these things, it will show you exactly in the view where the code is for generating these HTML elements. One other thing I complained about as well is that and now I need to switch to the other solution because it doesn't work in this one yet. It does style inspection just like jQuery does. But I'm like, okay, so if I change the style here, then hopefully it will get saved into the style sheet, right? Do I need to hurry up? So you can change it. It's like Chrome and Firefox and everything, but it doesn't save. I can't find the save button for this. So it's like, you know it's inside CSS. Please save my changes. Oh well, I didn't get a reply to that one, so that must be hard. But as you can see, it's really easy to find stuff and change the code, and and also the text when you change the code. It's like, oh, okay, I have to reload it now. Okay, thanks. I'll reload it. We'll say contact net. Okay. All right. That's it. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
So we have a sword at the side.
This the Dutch side.
This entire side.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. It's not pretty, but.
There's no documentation on that at all.
Right, okay. Well, there's not much in it right now, but it's a nice. It's more than nothing. That said, there is some documentation now. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's on Umbraco.org documentation, and it's not all filled yet. But for example, reference stuff. You've got the helpers library. It's not great organized there. Is it getting started? Concepts. Well, lost documentation on well, I can't remember. That must be this one then. Field. There we go. Dynamic model. So dynamic model is the current page, the XSLT current page principle, and from that you have loads and loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of things you can do already, and it's going to get better. But I'll post the source online somewhere and tweet it and everything. Yep. Any other questions? Is everybody excited about MVC4 now?
Yes. Yes.
Will it be standard in 5.1?
No, not in 5.1. No. MVC4 is still in beta, and I think the Umbraco team is now focusing on getting the performance issues and other things fixed first, and then I suspect when the final version of MVC4 is going to be finalized, and at that time they'll start upgrades. It totally works at the moment, but there's some things that still break because of namespace things that are wrong. So, and there's only a few things that it needs to fix.
How do we get that library for Twitter and Google Maps? And is it reliant on MVC4 or can you use it for MVC3?
I don't know. I don't know. Probably you can probably use it with MVC3, but you have to check it. I don't know. Yeah. The Twitter stuff already worked in the previous version, so that should still work.
Where do we get it?
I got it by creating a new site in Webmatrix, the bakery template, and just got it out of the bin folder and put it into my. All right. Anything else? No. Slides will be up at bit.doofest, and I'll add an extra slide with some of this information that you guys have asked about, the solution files and everything. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.